Hello, fellow nerds. That's the beginning that Roman Mars gave in his presentation in front of in town hall. Now, if you don't know Roman Mars, Roman is the founder and host of 99% Invisible, uh, which is a very popular podcast. And Roman, hold on one second. So I get the and Roman's the host of this very popular podcast, 99% Invisible. And he also has a PhD in genetics. So he's got a lot of nerd cred. And I'm sitting there at town hall with a few thousand people, and I'm thinking, like, there's thousands of nerds here. Am I a nerd? And most of the time, I didn't really think of myself as a nerd. But, considering I'm here with thousands of nerds, I realized I should really investigate this. So I started thinking about when I was in summer camp. It was 1987. It was my first time in summer camp. I was entering fifth grade. I went to this camp, Camp Summit. It was beautiful greenery. It was, just this very idyllic place. They had bunks that were deep red, kind of like they were stolen from a farm. And it was very much not a nerd culture. This were people who like to talk about sports, they like to talk about girls, and they like to talk about fashion. And this was the 1980s, so fashion wasn't doing very well, but we hadn't realized it at the time. And I was very excited for myself to really start getting into fashion because I could choose my own shirts and really express myself to my new campmates. So at the time, there were these dinosaur-themed sports shirts. So things like Soccerosaurus, and it'd be a picture of a dinosaur, and you'd have a soccer ball, and there'd be a lot of description below defining what a Soccerosaurus was, because nobody knows what a Soccerosaurus was, so you need a lot of text to explain it. And I got all these shirts. I got Soccerosaurus, I got Footballosaurus, I got Boxingosaurus, I got Anglerosaurus, which was about fishing. I didn't care about any of these sports, but I liked shirts with lots of definitions on them. I also had a Casio watch, a digital watch, but it wasn't one of those cool Casio digital watches. Mine had a thermometer and an altimeter and a barometer on it. And none of these things were particularly useful, but I really liked having them on my watch. And then also I brought an SAT prep book. I was going into fifth grade. I wasn't planning on studying for the SAT, but I really liked doing the math problems. So clearly I should not have been at this non-nerd camp, but I couldn't admit it. So I spent another 6 years there. Eventually I found my place. I went to college at Yale. And when I was thinking about it, I visited my sister who was going to Penn. And I would tell her, like, look, this is a pretty good school. Penn's a quality institution. It's in the Ivy League. But I feel like Penn just doesn't have the same sort of academic rigor and deep academic conversations that Yale has. And when she came to visit me at Yale, she kind of came off the train and she looked at everyone and she goes, Yale is filled with nerds. But I loved Yale. I thought Yale was like the best thing ever. I would go with my friends Lutz and Christine, and we would investigate things like, we were trying to figure out if there was a big castle on top of the library. So we'd go look at blueprints and we'd talk to people. We'd try and figure out if this was a thing. And eventually we found out there really was a castle on top of the library. It was actually the surrounding of the heating and air conditioning. So instead of having an ugly heating and air conditioning, they put a castle on top to guard it so that you'd have a similar kind of look to the rest of the library. And we went and we looked for the most possible unique book at the library. And we found, and I think Quinn will like this, we found a 4th edition of Hamlet from 1601. And this was an amazing book. This was a book that was so rare that it wasn't even kept at the library. It was kept in a vault near the library, and you had to order it. And we were able to sit down and kind of go to the special reading room and take a look at it. And what was so special about this book, and the reason that it was so guarded, is that it had one of the only copies of William Shakespeare's signature like ever in the world. It was just awesome to be able to touch this. But I didn't really accept the term nerd until quite a bit later. I was at my 20th reunion, and Lutz, one of my friends who would go on these adventures with me, was there. And he was with his daughter, and he was with his family, and they were in Germany. And his daughter grew up speaking German, and she knew English very well, but she didn't know all the little idioms. So one day she goes to her mother and she says, "Mom, what's a nerd?" And the mother looks at her and says, "Lisa, my daughter, your father Lutz and Robert are nerds." So these are my people, the nerds. I mean, nerds are wonderful. They love things, they obsess over things, they go so deep into things. And you know, nerds are like many of you in Toastmasters, like Quinn is a theater nerd and Lee is a business and marketing nerd. So I encourage all of you to embrace your inner nerds and to just obsess over things and to love things no matter what anybody else thinks.